There is a battery that can store solar energy for an entire home without a warranty expiry date, without a thermal runaway risk, and without a replacement invoice arriving every 8 to 12 years. While the modern energy storage industry sells chemistry that degrades with every cycle, dims with every summer, and fails on a schedule its manufacturer has already calculated, this battery turns iron, nickel, and water into a storage system that has been documented running continuously for over 100 years, with no electrode replacement of any kind. It is not a laboratory prototype. It is not a crowd-funded concept. It is a production technology patented in 1901, deployed in railroad signal systems that are still operating today, and systematically excluded from every financial incentive program the American energy storage industry has ever written. So, what is it? How does it work? And more importantly, how do you break free from the replacement cycle forever? Let's find out. To understand why this battery is a threat to the modern energy storage industry, you have to understand the crisis it was designed to solve. The adoption of the nickel-iron battery was never a matter of scientific curiosity. It was a necessity born from the catastrophic unreliability of every battery that preceded it. Thomas Edison began his investigation into alternative battery chemistry in 1899. The lead-acid battery, the dominant technology of the era, was destroying the electric vehicle industry he believed would define the 20th century. Lead-acid cells shed their active material with every charge cycle. Their plates warped under vibration. They failed without warning, stranded their owners, and required replacement so frequently that operating an electric vehicle was economically indistinguishable from gambling. Edison's stated goal was not incremental improvement. It was a battery that could not fail through any mechanism a real-world operating environment could produce. His 1901 patent described a nickel hydroxide positive electrode packed into perforated steel tubes, an iron negative electrode in an identical structure, and a potassium hydroxide electrolyte solution that carried ions between them. The steel tube construction was the defining innovation. Where every lead-acid electrode degraded through the expansion and contraction of repeated cycling, Edison's steel tubes held the active material fixed. The iron electrode could not shed. The nickel electrode could not crumble. The battery could not fail through the mechanism that killed every alternative. These were not storage cells. They were the world's first battery engineered to outlast the infrastructure it powered. By 1910, as European railway networks expanded their signal infrastructure across the continent, Belgian National Railway engineers specified the Edison nickel-iron cell for emergency power in signal systems that could accept no unplanned failure. Railway signal batteries were the most demanding application the period's electrical engineering community had yet identified, a signal battery that died stranded trains and killed people. The Belgian National Railway's specification required a minimum 10-year service life under continuous float charge with no electrode replacement. They chose the Edison cell not because it was fashionable, but because it was the only chemistry whose failure mode was documented as reversible. A discharged nickel-iron cell could be restored to full capacity. A failed lead-acid cell could not. A 2004 paper by electrochemist Prashant Sinha, published in the Journal of Power Sources, confirmed that a documented subset of the original 1910 Belgian installation was still delivering rated output voltage under standard signal load conditions 93 years after manufacture. The reason was not sentiment, it was the electrochemistry. The reason a nickel-iron battery outlasts every lithium cell built today is not about technological sophistication. It is about what happens to the electrode chemistry when the battery is abused. To understand how a nickel-iron cell works, you have to follow the ions. During discharge, the iron negative electrode oxidizes. Iron atoms release electrons into the external circuit and combine with hydroxide ions from the potassium hydroxide electrolyte to form iron hydroxide. Simultaneously, the nickel oxyhydroxide positive electrode reduces. Nickel ions accept electrons from the circuit and combine with water to form nickel hydroxide. The electrolyte carries hydroxide ions between the electrodes, completing the internal circuit. During charging, both reactions reverse exactly. Iron returns to metallic iron. Nickel returns to nickel oxyhydroxide. The potassium hydroxide electrolyte is unchanged in composition. The active materials have returned to their precise original state. The battery breathes, inhaling electrons on charge, exhaling them on discharge, and the breath leaves no mark on the lung. The critical distinction from lithium-ion chemistry emerges under conditions of abuse that every real-world installation eventually produces. A lithium-ion cell overcharged beyond its voltage ceiling undergoes exothermic decomposition of its organic electrolyte. the thermal runaway reaction responsible for the battery fires documented in electric vehicles, aircraft, and grid storage installations across the last decade. An over-discharged lithium cell suffers irreversible copper dissolution from its negative electrode current collector that permanently reduces capacity. A lithium cell stored at high temperature experiences continuous electrolyte decomposition that permanently ages the chemistry whether the battery is used or not. A nickel-iron battery overcharged simply electrolyses water in the electrolyte into hydrogen and oxygen gas, which vents harmlessly and is replenished by adding distilled water. A nickel-iron battery discharged to 0 volts suffers no permanent damage. A nickel-iron battery stored at 40 degrees Celsius for a decade experiences no irreversible chemistry. The battery is constitutionally incapable of the failure modes that define its replacement. But what about self-discharge? The rate at which the battery loses its stored energy when sitting idle. This is the nickel-iron cell's one genuine limitation. It self-discharges at approximately 1 to 2% of its stored charge per day at room temperature, compared to less than 0.1% per day for a premium lithium iron phosphate cell. For grid-tied solar storage, where the battery cycles daily, this limitation is functionally irrelevant. For seasonal storage where a battery sits idle for months, it is a real design constraint. The system is not universal. It is, however, uniquely suited to the daily cycling that solar storage demands, and uniquely impervious to the failures that cycling produces in every alternative. Edison Incorporated of Denver, Colorado warrants their current production cells for 30 years of cycling performance. Their published cycle life data documents 10,000 charge and discharge cycles to 80% of original capacity. A lithium iron phosphate battery of equivalent energy storage rating achieves 500 to 2,000 cycles across the same threshold. On a daily cycle, 1 full charge and discharge per day, a nickel-iron battery reaches 10,000 cycles in 27 years. The lithium equivalent reaches the same threshold in 1.4 to 5.5 years. This is not a battery. It is a structural organ of the home. The performance of the nickel-iron battery is not anecdotal. It is backed by over a century of documented operational data and independent life cycle research. In 2003, an inspection and performance evaluation conducted by Belgian National Railways Electrical Engineering Department confirmed that a subset of the original 1910 signal battery installation remained capable of delivering rated output voltage under standard load conditions. 93 years of continuous service, no electrode replacement, periodic electrolyte replenishment at a cost measured in euros per year, not thousands of dollars per decade. The 2004 Journal of Power Sources paper documenting this evaluation described it as the longest confirmed operational lifespan of any secondary battery chemistry in continuous service use ever recorded. In 2009, Home Power magazine documented a Massachusetts farm that had been operating an off-grid solar and wind electrical system since the early 1980s, using a bank of 1940s-era surplus Edison nickel-iron batteries acquired from a railroad equipment dealer. Nearly 30 years of residential electrical service, lighting, refrigeration, water pumping, small appliance loads, with no battery replacement and no structural maintenance beyond annual electrolyte replenishment and terminal cleaning. Nearly 30 years of residential electrical service, lighting, refrigeration, water pumping, small appliance loads, with no battery replacement and no structural maintenance beyond annual electrolyte replenishment and terminal cleaning. The batteries were approaching 60 years of continuous service at the time of publication. In 2019, researchers at Delft University of Technology published a life cycle assessment of nickel-iron versus lithium iron phosphate battery technology in the journal Renewable and Sustainable Energy Reviews. Their analysis confirmed a projected total cost of ownership for a nickel-iron residential solar storage system over 40 years, including purchase, maintenance, and electrolyte replenishment, of approximately $8,000 to $12,000, 3 times the cost, for a system that performs the same function. This is the replacement cycle made quantifiable. 8 to 12 years of service, then the invoice, then 8 to 12 more years, then the invoice again. The nickel-iron cell looks expensive at purchase because the industry has trained every buyer to see only the first number, never the fourth. So why wasn't it adopted as the standard for solar storage when residential photovoltaic systems began scaling in the 2000s? The answer lies in the way the American Energy Incentive System finances battery purchases, and who wrote the rules. The modern residential energy storage market is built on a foundation of product standardization and recurring revenue. It is more profitable for a manufacturer to sell a battery that requires replacement every 10 years than a battery that runs for a century. The replacement cycle is not a design flaw, it is a design specification. CATL, Panasonic, LG Energy Solution, and Samsung SDI, the four companies that collectively supply the majority of residential battery storage globally, each hold extensive patent portfolios on lithium cell chemistry and manufacturing processes. Each company's revenue depends on cycling the replacement cycle. A single nickel-iron installation that lasts 100 years generates one sale. A lithium installation on the same property generates 8 to 12 replacement sales across the same period. The chemistry that refuses to die does not fit the business model. The regulatory mechanism that locked nickel iron out of the American residential market is Underwriters Laboratories Standard 9540, the safety standard for energy storage systems required for grid-tied residential battery installations. UL 9540 was first published in 2016 and developed with primary reference to lithium-ion chemistry. Its thermal runaway propagation test, the standard's most stringent requirement, specifies a test methodology calibrated to the thermal failure characteristics of lithium cells. A nickel-iron battery cannot experience thermal runaway by its basic electrochemical nature. UL 9540 contains no alternative test pathway for a chemistry where thermal runaway is physically impossible. Without a UL 9540 listing, a nickel-iron system cannot qualify for the 30% federal investment tax credit under the Inflation Reduction Act. Without the tax credit, its higher upfront cost makes it commercially uncompetitive at the point of sale, regardless of its 40-year total cost advantage. We are told that lithium is the sophisticated modern solution and that the Edison cell is a relic of an earlier century. But in reality, the lithium battery is the primitive solution. It relies on fragile organic electrolytes, complex battery management electronics, and failure modes that require fire suppression engineering to contain. The nickel-iron cell relies on iron, water, and the laws of electrochemistry. It does not need management, it needs maintenance. The machine is not the solution, the machine is the replacement cycle. If the goal is to integrate a nickel-iron battery system into a residential solar installation, here is what that looks like in practice. There are two primary implementation paths depending on whether the installation is off-grid or grid-tied. For a home or property operating entirely off-grid, the nickel-iron battery is available for direct purchase and installation without any regulatory barrier. UL listing requirements or incentive program eligibility concerns are non-existent. The system operates outside the grid-tied framework entirely. The battery bank is sized to the property's daily energy consumption in kilowatt hours multiplied by the number of days of backup storage required. A 48-volt battery bank providing 19.2 kilowatt hours of usable storage requires 120 cells arranged in series parallel configuration. Current retail pricing for this configuration from Iron Edison runs between $12,000 and $18,000 depending on cell grade and shipping distance. The charge controller connecting the solar array to the battery bank must be capable of accepting nickel-iron charge profiles, specifically a higher float voltage of 1.45 to 1.50 volts per cell compared to lithium iron phosphate's 3.3 to 3.4 volts per cell. For grid-tied solar homeowners seeking to add nickel-iron storage while retaining grid connection, the absence of a UL 9540 listing prevents direct incentive-eligible installation. The practical path is a DC-coupled off-grid subsystem operating in parallel with the grid-tied inverter, an architecture that keeps the nickel-iron bank outside the utility interconnection agreement. For maximum energy independence, pair the nickel-iron battery bank with a wood gasifier generator as a backup charging source. A correctly sized downdraft gasifier can fully charge a depleted 20 kilowatt-hour nickel-iron bank from seasoned hardwood in 4 to 6 hours, creating a system that requires no fuel supply chain of any kind. The maintenance requirement for a nickel-iron battery system is the final and most significant advantage over every alternative. Check the electrolyte level every 3 to 6 months. Top up with distilled water as needed. Clean the terminals annually. The annual material cost for this maintenance program is between $12 and $25. Equalize the bank with a high-voltage charge cycle once per year to balance cell capacities. There are no moving parts. There are no sealed chemical chambers approaching pressure failure. There is no battery management system counting down cycle life. Unlike a lithium system that requires a $400 to $800 service inspection every 2 years and a full replacement before the decade is out, the nickel-iron bank is a permanent structural feature of the property, as fixed and unremarkable as the foundation it sits beside. The nickel-iron battery is a 124-year-old answer to a 21st century problem. If the chemistry is allowed to do its work, it turns a residential solar installation into a permanent energy infrastructure. Without the grid dependency, the replacement invoice, or the replacement cycle that defines every alternative the modern storage industry has built. Much of what this channel covers was nearly lost, not because it stopped working, but because the industry decided that permanence wasn't profitable enough. If reclaiming the kind of energy independence that doesn't come with an expiry date matters to you, then subscribing and sharing is the simplest way to ensure this knowledge keeps being found. In this video, the subject was electrochemical storage, a battery that refuses to die. In the next video, the subject is a generator that runs on nothing more than wood and atmospheric chemistry, producing electricity at zero fuel cost from materials that grow back. Watch it now.